Great to
Good
have you
morning.
all
Morning.
attending. Just to give a gentle reminder that this session is being recorded. So just to give you the heads up about that. If you're having any kind of technical difficulties, just let us know in the chat and someone will assist you. But if you do end up getting bumped off the call for some reason, just use your initial link to log back in. I'd like to acknowledge that our Brandon office is located on Treaty 2 lands, which is the traditional homelands of the Dakota, the Anishinaabe, the Oji Cree, Dene, and Métis peoples. However, we work extensively throughout Manitoba in the lands of Treaties 1 through 4 and the southern portion of Treaty 5. RMED respects the treaties that were made on these lands where we will work together. We commit to reconciliation along the path to economic prosperity. Now, as we begin, I just want to let everybody know that we are going to hold off till the end to be answering questions. So if you have any, please feel free to throw them in the chat box and we'll answer them at the end, or we'll also have the opportunity for you to talk in person there if you so wish. Just to recognize and introduce the staff members that we have on the call today, we have Teddy Garvey, our project coordinator. We've got Devin Stikilo, Economic Development Advisor for the North, and myself, Eric Forrester, Economic Development Advisor for the South. Teddy, if you don't mind launching the pre-webinar poll. And this will just be to kind of gauge your background and learn a little bit more about our participants today. We will also be doing a post-webinar poll as well. And while people are working on that, I want to introduce our speaker for the day, Jamie Forrester. Awesome last name, but unfortunately no relation. The Senior Investment Officer for CanExport Community Investments, Global Affairs Canada. Jamie Forrester is a Senior Investment Officer with the CanExport Community Investments Program at Global Affairs Canada. The program provides financial support to Canadian communities to help them attract and retain foreign direct investment, or FDI. Jamie has been working with the program, supporting these Canadian communities for the last 4 years. With a strong commitment to fostering economic development and international engagement, Jamie works closely with municipalities, regional organizations, and Indigenous communities to help them attract foreign direct investment and promote their regions abroad. This year, Jamie is participating in virtual forums across the country to raise awareness of the CanExport Community Investments Program and encourage eligible communities to apply. She has extensive experience helping applicants navigate the funding process and is dedicated to supporting rural and remote communities in finding new opportunities to grow. And a little bit of background about the webinar that we are doing today, the CanExport Community Investments Introduction to the Program. CanExport Community Investments, Introduction to the Program, description. The presentation introduces Canadian communities and economic development organizations to a unique opportunity to access federal grants funding that support initiatives aimed at attracting and retaining foreign direct investment. Learn how to register and apply, what makes projects qualified, and how this program can help your region grow its international business presence. Whether you're new to CanExport Community Investments or looking to expand your impact, this session offers insights and guidance to help you succeed. Now, enough of me. Everybody is here to learn more about the program, so I will hand it over to you, Jamie.
Great, thanks for the intro. I'm just gonna try and figure out, there we go. Okay, yeah, so like Eric said, my name is Jamie Forrester, and I'm the Senior Investment Officer with the CanExport Community Investments Program, and I'll just be kind of talking about the program today. I also have my Deputy Director here, Matthew McCracken. Matt, if you want to just put your camera on and maybe give a little wave.
Already done so, but I'll do it again. Hello.
Sorry, I can't quite see the
Here's a wave again.
going on. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so today we'll just be going through a bit more info about the program, who's eligible, why it matters to your community. I'll be talking about some success stories that we've had from some of the some of the applicants in recent years. I'll be talking about the info sessions will be happening in a couple weeks. Be talking about the FDI continuum and how it relates to the eligible components under the program, Indigenous partnerships, going through some important dates this year, and then the TCS network and other FDI resources, and lastly, just how to actually apply for the program and how the online portal works and stuff. So to start things off, the purpose of the program is to, like Eric already said, help Canadian communities attract, retain, and expand their foreign direct investment. We co-fund your initiative, so it's a 50-50 cost share. So we'll cover 50% of your expenses, and you as a community will cover the rest. We support municipalities, economic development organizations, Indigenous communities all across Canada. The eligible activities, which we will definitely touch on a bit more later in the presentation, but it usually results in updating investment attraction strategies, creating sector marketing tools, attending investor outreach events, and just capacity building for your investment team. Like I said, it's a 50-50 cost share model, so we help communities implement projects that would otherwise be difficult to finance themselves. The program aligns with Canada's broader trade diversification strategy by supporting communities to attract investment and create sustainable local economic growth. And the program is pretty flexible. I'll get into the dates later, but the call for application is in January this year. We recognize that it's pretty difficult for communities to plan and apply for things that they may be doing a year from then. So we are pretty flexible. We do take in like local knowledge from our adjudication boards when reviewing the applications, and we just consider that when we do get reallocation requests if you're moving funding from one activity to another. So we accept applications from Canadian communities, nonprofit, locally based Canadian organizations, and municipal organizations. And to be eligible, you just need a mandate to attract FDI, and you need to be able to enter legally binding agreements. So, like I've said many times now, the program runs on a 50-50 cost share model, which means that we pay half and you pay the rest. We fund projects up to $500,000, or sorry, up to $1 million. We'll cover $500,000. But the program is pretty oversubscribed, just to be transparent. So it's pretty rare for someone to actually get $500,000. If you do want to get a better idea of what people are actually awarded, you can go on our website. There's a link on the last slide, I think, but it will kind of show communities across the country that have been awarded funding and how much. So that'll give you a better idea of the range of what people usually get. So I will mention that this year, the federal government has actually awarded us some additional funding, which is very exciting, but we don't know how much yet. So we can't really make any announcements, but hopefully we will be spreading that news soon. So the funding will help your community build its capacity and knowledge of foreign direct investment, and through the 4 eligible components, which we will talk about later in the presentation. In turn, this will hopefully drive job creation and fuel innovation in your community. So I'm going to get into some success stories that our recipients have had in recent years. So to help paint a picture of the valuable outcomes of the program, the city of Sudbury had received funding from the program, has received funding 5 times since 2018, so they're a returning applicant. With last year's funding, they were able to pull off some pretty impressive results. So they applied and received funding for attendance at the Min Expo event in Las Vegas. So we funded transportation and per diem for two employees of the organization, along with meeting room rentals at the event just to meet with investors, and then some promotional materials to be used at the event. And luckily, they were able to meet with a leading original equipment manufacturer. They haven't actually released the information, so we can't talk about who, but it's pretty big news for them. So this led to a $50 million plus expansion into Sudbury, 50 new jobs created, 150 existing jobs secured, and transformative investment for their local economy, which is very exciting. And similar to Sudbury, Montreal received similar funding. So we funded their travel and per diem costs to go to NER IPS, which was in New Orleans in 2023. And they were able to partner with the Quebec Artificial Intelligence Institute and co-host a little presentation there to top AI companies and researchers. And they were able to actually meet with NVIDIA, which is a pretty big company, and build a pretty strong relationship with them. And then this company ended up incorporating in Montreal following this engagement, which strengthened Canada's position in the global AI ecosystem. And lastly, this one's a bit different. In 2021, the program funded Invest Ottawa with development of their marketing materials. So this went towards their global runway soft landing. And this was a whole project developed by this organization, which provides companies the opportunity to quickly establish a presence in Ottawa. I think just showing off their Bayview yards and like Ottawa's unique business acceleration and innovation space. So this led to some strong FDI pipelines with South Korea and two pretty big companies, Smart Inside and Paprika, and Dell, which led to some pretty big investments, $26.6 million investment from Dell, 300 new jobs created in Ottawa, and strengthened Ottawa's position as a global tech hub. So hopefully that kind of paints the picture of like what the program can fund and what it can lead to for your community. So if you do find that this program will be a good fit for your organization based on what I'm going through in this presentation, we suggest that you do attend our info sessions. This presentation is more like just an intro to the program, basically showing what the program is. And then the info sessions will be more to help applicants understand how to do make a really strong application. We'll go through like common mistakes that people have made in recent years. We'll go through good examples, bad examples. Hopefully that'll just help people avoid leaving any money on the table when they're submitting their applications. So we'll be offering 4 sessions. It's the second week of December. There'll be 2 in French and 2 in English. So if you are interested in these sessions, if you could just put your email in the chat, I think we'll do it this way. It's probably easiest, and we'll just create a distribution list that way. We'll just send everyone that's put their email in the chat all the meeting invites, and you guys can just pick which one works best for you. So throughout the presentation, if you just want to pop your email in the chat, we'll send those invites shortly. Oh, okay, I think we're good. So just getting into the FDI continuum. So this slide is intended to help you locate yourself on the continuum. So if you're just getting started with FDI, you'll be closer to the beginning of the continuum, which is you're kind of at the capacity building stage. It just helps like create a team that's well equipped to go to market, meet with investors, that kind of thing. So it would be like FDI training, Um, and then we also, at the beginning, if you're just starting off in FDI, we also suggest creating a strategic plan. So this is just how your community will figure out how to attract FDI long term. So you'll kind of see which markets you should be targeting, what resources you have in your community, that kind of thing. So usually working with consultants and experts to kind of get that knowledge. Um, and then once all of that is kind of figured out, usually move on to marketing and communications, which does go hand in hand with lead generation. Um, I think I kind of get into how that relates more to the program's eligible components. So, like the last slide, the 4 items on the screen are the components that are eligible for funding under our program. We suggest those that are just getting started start with the FDI training and FDI strategic planning and analysis. If you do go to our website, there's a link on this slide. I think we'll be sending the deck to those that have attended today afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. So you can use the links in the presentation then. But in our applicant's guide, under each component, there's more information on what activities are actually eligible. So that'll definitely give you a better idea of what you can actually apply for. So similar to what I said in the last slide, once you have set the groundwork, you can move on to create tools and materials, which is usually marketing materials for events, website content, that kind of thing, and then move on to do FDI lead generation and meetings with potential investors. So like I talked about in the success story slides, that would be like transportation, per diem, meeting room rentals, that kind of stuff to actually go to market and meet with investors. Okay, good there. So in recent years, our team has been pretty concentrated on outreach primarily to Indigenous communities and encouraging applicants to work in partnership with these communities as well. Indigenous communities often hold significant land resources and strategic locations that make them attractive to investors, and helping them become investment ready unlocks this untapped economic potential. So we've definitely had some pretty great success in recent years. In 2021, we had no applicants working in partnership with Indigenous communities. And last year we had 20. So we've had a couple that are identify as Indigenous communities, and then most of them are working in partnership with. So very happy about that. And we still are encouraging everyone to work in partnership with these communities if it's possible. So to demonstrate this, when you do register for the portal, which I'll kind of get into later, more info about the portal, but when you do register, you can identify your organization as Indigenous, or if you're working in partnership with Indigenous communities, that will be asked in the actual proposal in strategic partnerships, like in the strategic partnerships section. So if you are working in partnership, we do ask that you clearly explain your collaboration agreement and how you'll be working in partnership with. And if you could clearly demonstrate which activities have a strong collaboration, because those activities will be favored by the adjudication board. So important dates and timelines. So the information sessions will be, what is that? 3 weeks from now, I think. December 9th and 11th. And then the call for proposal will be early January. So that will be January 5th to 30th. So it runs for 4 weeks. That's when the application system is actually open in our portal. So you'll actually be able to see the questions in the application at that time. Our team is usually working overtime and stuff to help you guys out with any questions you may have. So we're always there if you do have any tech issues or just questions along the way. We're there to help. And then adjudication, we organize adjudication boards to review the applications. So we usually meet with members from Invest in Canada and the provincial governments that are that have regional knowledge of the communities that are applying and also knowledge of foreign direct investment. So that usually goes on for about 3 weeks, also kind of dependent on how many applications we receive. Last year, I think we had 120. So maybe more this year. We will see. 3 weeks might be ambitious, but we'll see what happens. And then the results will go out in mid-March. So that will just be if you were approved, partially approved, rejected for all the activities you applied for, you'll get a little PDF explaining everything. And then you're also welcome, if you do have any questions at that point, to set up a meeting with us and we can go through why decisions were made the way they were. But then once the results are sent out, we do process the grant agreements, so that will be signed by both parties, the signing authority from the organization applying and our management. Once those are signed, we're able to send out the grant payments right after that. So that's kind of how things go. And then I'll also mention that the funding cycle or project start date is April 1st, 2026. Project end date is March 31st, 2027. So final reports will be due a month after the project end date. So April 2027, if that makes sense. But if you do end up applying, we will remind you of these dates many times. So no need to worry. So lastly, I would like to mention that even if you do not receive funding from the program, we strongly encourage communities to work closely with the Global Affairs Trade Commissioner Service. There are 160 offices worldwide, with 42 officers specifically dedicated to foreign direct investment. So obviously, these officers have local knowledge about local businesses in their region. So they're great to work with for any lead generation that you might be doing. Great people to bounce ideas off of and kind of work with. If you are going to market, they should be able to help you set up meetings and other stuff. So yeah, I think I covered everything there. Yes, so then the portal, everything is pretty much done through our portal. So that can be found on our website. Like I said, you'll be able to click these links later, but if you do just look up CanExport Community Investments, there's a register now button on the main screen, and that will take you to the portal. And you just press login registration. I think that button's a little blurry, but that's what that says there. And you can kind of register your organization, register your profile. You'll need a signing authority and a main contact for your organization. And that's kind of where you will log in and see the application in January. And yeah, if you have any questions on that, we're happy to, you could reach out to us via email. We can definitely get you in there, and it'll make more sense once you're in and see things. And yeah, our email is also on the screen there. Our entire team can see this email, so it's definitely best to reach out there so you always know one team member is seeing. And yeah, I think that's it.
Well, fantastic. So much. Thank you so much, Jamie. Lane, do you have a question if you want to go ahead?
I do have a couple questions. Thanks, Eric. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for the presentation. It probably says in the application guide, but stackable?
Not stackable. Sorry. With other federal funding, federal funding can only cover 50%.
Yeah, okay. But
But if it's
stackable
provincial,
otherwise?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And this, uh, you're part of global affairs, so I assume that's the level or the department responsible for contributing to your budget. Are you able to share your total program budget?
So not quite yet.
Okay.
Last year it was 5 million.
Okay.
So it's going to be more than that this year, but we
Okay.
don't know quite how
Yeah,
much.
just to add to that, the budget did announce that there would be a top up to CanExport globally. We are still taking right now trying to determine how much of those 19.9 million will be towards us, but we will be sending that information like the instant we find out about it because we really want to find out ourselves too.
That's fair. I can appreciate that. Um, do you have any like pools of money specifically dedicated to our provinces and territories? Like, do you have benchmarks you need to meet within Manitoba?
So it's pretty much based on the merit of your application. Like we
Okay.
do kind of set notional budgets when we go into the adjudication review. So that's kind of divided up by population, but it never lands exactly on it. We usually go over or under just based on merit of the application.
Okay, perfect. And my last question is maybe more so for Eric, and it might be more of an offline, but it's about like the role RMED would be willing to play in something like this and how those partnerships look when it comes forward in a grant application, I guess.
So from an RMED standpoint, absolutely. I mean, we can share that. Yeah, keep us up to date to what plans are, what your ultimate goal is, whether it's the initial work as the community growth strategy assessment and new toolkit from RMED just to identify where your municipality is at currently, or even future opportunities. Feel free to include RMED for anything specific. Then yeah, Lane, let's take it offline. We'll have a conversation.
Yeah, that's fair. And then I guess Jamie, as a follow-up to that, like does that add more merit if you have more partners, that sort of
And
thing?
there definitely is a section in the application, strategic partnerships, and it looks great if you are working with the province. At least they're kind of knowing what's going on with you. So the board will definitely recognize that and appreciate that.
Perfect. Okay, thanks so much.
Right. Joelle, you've had your hand up for a while. How about you go next?
Yeah, you bet. I think you answered a couple of my questions there, but and Matthew alluded to it, but the 120 applicants, I assume was cross country. Um, I did meet with your counterparts in Southern Ontario last month or whatever, and it seems like out of those applications or even those awarded, they seem to say that in the prairies or Manitoba specific, there's not too many, should I say, applicants, or it seems there's not much going on here. Is there any truth to that for Manitoba?
I think we had about 8 last year.
Okay.
Like I said, there's lists on the website of like how much each province was awarded and how much each community was awarded. Um, but yeah, I think like a lot of our outreach this year will probably be like we're definitely going to encourage Saskatchewan and Manitoba to hopefully get more communities to apply. I think like Ontario, we have no problem. There are so many applicants.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think we're just trying to like focus outreach on those provinces that haven't applied that much in the past, but I think it is a population thing too, in a way.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I won't start criticizing the province for, putting us on the map, but that's a whole other discussion. But on a side note for us here on the call, like, and some of us, like ourselves, we work regionally, um, or across Manitoba for that matter. Is it best to, like, let's say you have an industrial park or you're Winnipeg. Well, we do manufacturing, we do transportation, we they have a bunch of industries, but I would think when you apply, is it best to just focus on one or two industries, or just come out there and say, I'm from Winnipeg and Steinbach or Winkler, or we want everything, and just go out and promote your community as a whole?
I think it's definitely better to be focused and hone in on those specific sectors that you're focused on. Like in the application, you'll see you choose your target sectors per component. So if you're doing lead generation and you're going to market in Japan, let's say you'll put that as your target market. But then hopefully this year we're still kind of working on tweaking the application a bit. You will also set like answer for your organization as a whole. So what are your target sectors as an organization? And then get into the weeds on for this year's proposal. So I think with the regional knowledge that we do have on the boards, they kind of know a bit more about each area in the province and what their sectors are. So yeah, being focused is definitely better, but hopefully that answers your question.
And does it
I'm not
matter
sure
if,
if
let's say,
that's-
you're focusing on one specific industry or maybe two, but it's for 5, 6 communities that are all over the map, or you're, I know Ed's there, but you're doing mining and resources for all of the north or something.
Mhm.
That's cool. Like
Yeah.
you're not concerned about the town of something, but rather a regional approach in industry.
Yes, exactly. Regional approach all the way. There's such small towns in Canada. Investors are maybe not going to know who a tiny little town is, but if you're working as an
Yeah.
entire region, it looks so much better. So we definitely encourage doing that.
Cool.
And in the application, there is an area where you can kind of explain who you're working in partnership with.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Thank you for those questions, Joel. Jason.
Thanks, Eric. And thanks so much for the trade commissioners for being here and sharing this information, a really unique and interesting program. Two questions for you. How does this relate to the CanExport funding program as well? It seems like there may be some overlap. Is that something that I've considered using that in the past for development of marketing materials, attending of trade shows and stuff like that? Can you help me understand the difference between those two streams?
Yes, of
We
course.
are.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
there are, I think, four. I don't know if it's changed to five, but
It's four.
4 pillars of CanExport. We've kind of we're the only one with an FDI mandate. So the other programs, I think it's innovation, small, medium-sized enterprises, associations, they cover very different things than we cover. We're very much focused on investment.
Yeah.
We've kind of come to the conclusion that it doesn't totally make sense that we're part of the larger CanExport because we don't really have much to do with export itself, but
Yeah.
it's
Right.
not really related.
Yeah, exactly. No, so we are like I said, a completely separate program, right? Because we do not, like Jamie said, drive exports. CanExport is its own thing. It is primarily towards the private sector and private sector actors, right?
Yep.
This is really just, it's like you would have to look at it as being like almost like a federal transfer program from, from federal governments down towards, say, sub-provincial governments. So that's usually how it would work.
Gotcha. Thanks. That does make sense hearing it like that. So thank you for that clarification. Second, with the budget being released, there seems to be some spending priorities in that budget. Does the evaluation of applications follow that budget at all, or do you expect it to follow that budget with priority sectors being targeted?
Right now, I'll just handle that one because I'm actually kind of looking at a bit of a revision of the program.
Yeah.
So for the next fiscal year, we don't expect any substantial changes for the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
We are currently exploring options right now. But generally speaking, we should be looking at the same priority markets for attracting investment,
Yeah.
i.e., you're still going to be looking at East Asia. You're still going to be looking at Europe.
Mhm.
The United States is still in there, right? Whether or not it's a kind of proactive priority versus, say, some
Yeah.
of the ones we've been seeing recently from some of the communities, especially we've seen some communities kind of shift gears over the past year for obvious reasons. But in terms of where the budget is concerned, that does not like affect things just yet. One thing I can say, we are exploring different options right now based on what is in the budget language. So there might be some minor tweaks which will be communicated ahead of the opening of the call for proposals in January. So if there are any changes, we will communicate those with you by December, certainly.
Fantastic. And thanks for the context. Absolutely. Europe and the immediate Pacific there continues to be ways of diversifying our investment targets. So thanks for mentioning that. Absolutely. And yeah, exactly. The American side of things, the complications, our manufacturers are just pulling their hair out, trying to figure out how to make that happen. And we're seeing people from the States come up and ask us, hey, can we get Canadian FDI into the northern states? So what? No, we want your guys' money. Anyways, last one, sorry, and that's on just that spectrum, that continuum that you guys had shared before. We're kind of straddling between two. We've got a bit of a mandate and a plan. We'd like to just take that mandate and plan to the next level and then get into the tool material development and dissemination of it. Are you guys looking at funding these things in these specific silos, or if we're transitioning to another one, is that something that wouldn't be held against us?
Like, I think you'll definitely be able to explain in the application where you're kind of at with FDI currently, because obviously, if it's your first time applying, doesn't mean you're new to FDI. You will be able to say, we already have a strategy in place, and the board will understand that the next step is obviously moving on to tool and material development. So there definitely is space for that in the application.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks so much.
I will mention too, and Matt, stop me if you want to, but we have had additional funding for the Indo-Pacific region for the last 3 years now. So that's the same this year. I think it was 1.5 million last year. I think it's going to be the same amount this year. So we will prioritize funding those activities over.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like Europe's a thing now too. So I'm not sure if anything's going to change, but we know
that. Yeah, so like the trade diversification strategy was announced in the budget, but for what it means in terms of practical funding, that has not been communicated to us just yet. So as Jamie alluded to, yes, there is priority funding that is towards countries that are in the Indo-Pacific strategy right now. So you're looking at things like, Korea, Japan, China. Our offices in India as well are reopening. Like they're in the process of reopening as well. And I do know that there has been some Indian investment, particularly in some of the Western provinces. We've seen some of that. An example I always like to give is the fact that steel manufacturing was saved by Indian investment in Northern Ontario. So we are going to be seeing some of that as well. So keep your eyes peeled as well for announcements in that in terms of expansion of our geographic presence. Because especially as you're going to be doing lead generation and meetings with potential investors, you're going to find yourself working not only with our events team who are running events all over the Indo-Pacific, but also, you may want to do some outcalls yourself, like, or pay a lead generation consultant in Tokyo or Singapore or Mumbai potentially. And we will have a trade commissioner service offices that will be ready to serve you on that front as well. So before you start doing any tours or anything like that in those regions, contact our local offices because they're going to have their own contacts who might be able to help you and can actually get you into meetings with the right people that you need to meet.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Jamie.
Well, we got some great questions coming to Jamie and Matthew. This is great. Brittany, I'll pass it over to you. If you're still there, Brittany.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry, I had another phone call, so I did miss a little bit. I did hear you guys talking. I know that a lot of this throne speech is really focusing on the regional approach to things. So I appreciate that you touched on the benefit of that. Just wondering how, and maybe you touched on this, so maybe I'm just missing it, but how are you guys kind of gauging the capacity for like how does the grant evaluate the community's readiness to like absorb new investment? And I heard Lane ask about the benchmarks, but I'm clearly speaking on behalf of Stonewall, so kind of looking for those, what's important for the smaller municipalities.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll take a crack at this and then Matt, if you have anything to add. We do kind of rely on our adjudication boards for this information. Like usually they know of these communities and the organizations, so hopefully they know a little bit about your capacity. Yeah, do you have anything to add, Matt?
Yeah, so yeah, usually, yeah, the education, obviously, this is why we have provincial governments and like, actual provincial officers from Investing Canada to look at that because they know the communities intimately. But generally speaking, what we're looking at in terms of how ready a community is first of all, does a community have an FDI mandate, right? Do you have like an actual like written mandate down to attract investment, even if it's just like a simple line in your like
Strat plan.
overall.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I said like, yeah, just like a line in your strat plan or something, like as long as you're identifying that this is
Yeah,
on, on your
exactly.
radar.
But there's also other like there's also other criteria that we would look at too, such as for example, does your community fine? Do you have a mandate, but you also have a strategy, right? If not, that's fine. That's what community investments funding is for to help you develop that strategy. But that is something that is looked at. How in your application have you focused on an appropriate number of realistic priority sectors, right? If you're if you're a community that, for example, is rich in say mineral wealth, for example, and you have mining in there, great. But if you have like 10 sectors and everything's a priority, maybe you're not quite ready just yet. Have you focused on the appropriate number of realistic priority markets, right? Are you, if you have, for example, say, again, mineral rights, and you know that there are like specific American or European or say Chinese firms that are looking to extract those minerals, for example, or if you are a community that is heavily reliant on farming and you know that there is going to be, say, for example, Mahindra tractor wants to set something up. Uh, are you looking at the right countries that match the kind of sectors that you're looking at? If you don't have a priority markets yet, or if the answer is, oh, well, we want investment from anyone, maybe the investment readiness isn't there yet because it's like, not quite targeted enough.
Mhm.
And then there's other like factors that are looking just like, do you have the sufficient capacity? Do you have enough people working on it? Or any enough like employees, funding to be able to pay consultants? That can also be determined. And just like our own evaluation of like, do you have like your own deep knowledge of your own region? What is your value proposition? That is also particularly helpful for us to know too.
And like a big part of it too is like your own budget because you're in the end going to need to cover half of what you're applying for. So that does say a lot.
Absolutely. I appreciate the answers, guys. Nice to see everyone.
And if I could further on that a lot, like Matthew, you hit the nail right on the head about the planning side of it. How ready are you? So I am a huge supporter of planning. I do not believe in municipal government just saying we need a trade mission to India because that seems to be the hot trend.
Yeah.
So there takes a lot of planning. Not only that, but personally, I feel there should be bonus points for economic development regions or counselors that take the Economic Developers Association Manitoba Community Edge training, modules 1 through 8, to get an understanding of what community economic development is. Further to that, I'm just going to add that RMED does have a new toolkit called the Community Growth Strategy Assessment, which goes through 14 levels of assessments to find out and help gauge where your municipality is, as well as achievable economic development goals that are available to your region. Further that with another RMED toolkit called Investment Readiness, and just that good walkthrough to get an understanding of what the requirements are. It's hard to go on a trade mission to India when you do not have serviceable sites, when you don't know what water capacity is, sewer capacity, supports. So Matthew,
Or when
thank
you're
you for
landlocked.
saying that. Or when you're landlocked, absolutely. And a great opportunity, like you guys mentioned, regional approaches. Like it's a great opportunity for towns working with local municipalities, or you cluster a bunch of them together to find the greater good for the region. So thank you so much for mentioning the planning aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because especially in terms of sufficient capacity to undertake FDI attraction, When you're a small town, you don't have the resources to dedicate towards this necessarily. But if you pool your resources together, several smaller communities kind of forming one EDO together, one application together, then we think, okay, these guys are ready for it, right? Like all these small towns have decided to just pool their brains together, their time together on this. They're ready, right? So that can help us make that determination.
Yeah, absolutely. Now with this conversation, I got goosebumps. So that's just me in a nutshell there. But you did touch on it because I was a little curious about what you use as a definition of mandate. Like, was it something that needs to appear in your vision statement or your mission statement? But you said it quite clearly there, Matthew. Just as it's showing up in your planning, and then you've got separate planning involved in how FDI is going to work for you and what you plan to achieve with it. So.
You may also just have like a simple document that basically lays out what the mandate of your EDO is, right? And if in that EDO's mandate, right, of like, yes, we want to seek prosperity, etc., also through the attraction of foreign direct investment, it shows you have a mandate for it, right? And it should be strong enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, I'll leave it open there for anybody else if they have any additional questions. We're 10:47. We do run until 11. So, Joel, I
Hey,
see
just
you've got something.
quickly, the applications, are they reviewed by the local trade commissioners or?
So it's reviewed, like we put together boards of one member from Invest in Canada. It's usually the regional advisor from the province, and then someone from the provincial government, and then someone from our team, usually Matt, and then we'll have someone like taking notes and making sure we track
Okay.
everything that's said. So
Makes sense.
yeah, we usually have everyone that's kind of needed with the regional knowledge.
Excellent. All right. Well, before we let everybody go, I just want to let you know of our next webinar taking place December 11th. Our webinar will be with Alex Fallon with the Economic Development Office in Regina with a discussion about the Western Canadian Economic Forum that will be taking place in Winnipeg in January. So you don't want to miss that. I also want to mention that we do have an ECDev coffee chat, which is last Fridays of the month. Open forum, not recorded, so an opportunity to just come on, have a conversation with other economic development officers in the region, ask questions, get answers, share insights. And with that, I just want to say thank you again to our presenters, Jamie and Matthew. It was fantastic having you both on and sharing more information about the program.
No worries. Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone, and hopefully we'll see some new applications for Manitoba this year.
Oh, fantastic. Well, everybody have a great day. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.